Hi guys, Louise here from Lucky Night Studio. Today I want to take you through a quick little button animation on Squarespace. So if I show you here, this is what we're going to be making. So this is one of our templates, and here we have a kind of a nice bordered button, which is kind of standard with Squarespace. But what we'll be adding is this kind of animation that will have a square that kind of appears behind it as well, which looks quite cool. Okay, so what I've got here is I've just created a kind of new template, Squarespace template. So this is one of their default ones with no styling. Yeah, and we'll get started. So what we've got here is, first thing I'm going to do, I've got the CSS open. So custom CSS, just so that people know, if you're from the home kind of admin part, let me move my little face over here. You want to click website, and then you want to go into website tools and custom CSS. And here you can select it. So I do know what this button is, but I'll just show you kind of how you would look up the CSS of it and what you're kind of looking for. Hopefully you can kind of see my screen. Oh, it might be a little bit small with the text, but what we're looking for here, you're looking for the class names in the kind of code, basically. I think there is, I'm sure, I'll add a blog post anyway that will kind of have the actual code itself, so you can always copy and paste it. But what we want to be looking for here is we've got this Squarespace, so SQS, that means Squarespace, block button element. So you can see here there's like the block button element small and ternary. So this is because this is the individual size. So this is the small button and it's the ternary one. So there could be primary and secondary as well. They often relate to the colors as well as the different stylings. So we actually want to grab just this one because we want this animation to be applied to all of them. So the first thing I'm going to do, and you do a dot for the class names. The first thing I want to do is that I want to stop it going transparent on hover, because I just don't like it. And I just don't think it'll work well with this kind of design. And as you can see, going from my reference point here, this one doesn't have it. So we want to do is, so I've got the class, and then I'm saying when it's on hover, we actually want the opacity, because it's changing the opacity to be 1. And perfect. So now we don't have kind of that opacity on hover. So that's the first part that we want to do. Now the next part, so we're gonna this is all gonna be related to this one. First thing we need to do is what we're going to do is we're going to create an extra box in CSS alone. So usually you would kind of add more HTML code to it, but because we don't have the option with that really with Squarespace, what we're going to do instead is we're going to add it through CSS. So what we want to do is we can do before or after. So every HTML element, that's a lie, not all of them, but a lot of them, they have a before and after CSS that you can kind of add to it. So I'll just show you as it's far easier. So what we'll do is we'll do a before one, because we kind of do need it hidden anyway. Actually, it might be easier if we'll do an after. So content is going to be empty. Do you know what I'm going to do actually, just to show you? There we go. As you can see, I've added actually text to this. So just so that you can kind of see that there's a space there. Actually it won't. There you go. So you can see that I've added content to it. So this is actually the element itself after, again, if I kind of show you. So we've got this because we're actually grabbing the button itself, and then there's just padding around it as well. And so adding the after here, we'll kind of add this text part here. Okay, so now you can kind of see what this CSS is doing. It's actually adding extra to it. Now in here we can't put any kind of HTML or anything like that. I mean, you can put some SVGs and things, but it's quite complicated. But we don't need to do any of that. We can just say create another kind of element so that we can kind of style it is what we're going to be doing. So we're going to give it a position absolute. So without going into too much detail, what this is saying is rather than get the position that is absolute. So this could be for the page, but what we're going to do on this element is we're going to say position relative. I will tell you what, I'll add a bit more code and I'll kind of show you why we're doing this. I think that's kind of easier. So we're going to have the top to be 0, left to be 0, and then height, we want it to be 100%, width 100%. And I'm actually just going to do background red, just because we want to be able to see it. And now you can see what this has actually done, is this has created a square on top of the button currently. And it will be, because we've said the height and width is 100%, it'll be the exact same height. So if you see here, if I said make it 50%, we'll see it suddenly, everything kind of shrinks down. So even if we said like, just make it half the height, and then you could even say make it 50% upwards. So you can kind of position it around. So yeah, that's kind of the logic with this. I'll keep it red and over the top at the moment because it makes it a bit easier when you're kind of coding it up to really understand what it is doing. The reason I wanted to show you this as well, so if I take away the position relative, so yeah, it will kind of, it may not always adjust correctly to it. And also if I take away the position absolute, because this is the after, you remember when I kind of added the hey afterwards, this is exactly where the afterwards is. So this means that the position by default will be relative to it. So it's relative to the RSVP text, but we actually want it to be absolute because we want it to be kind of containing all of this. And yeah, the position relative is just kind of like a standard practice that I would generally recommend because otherwise you will just find it kind of, the absolute could be absolute to the whole page rather than just a button, because you're not sure where the relative is. So it's just a standard practice that if you have a position absolute, the parent element, so the one above it, should be relative. I'll leave like a link as well, which I think will kind of explain it a bit more because I don't want to get too technical. Perfect. And so I'll keep it in the front for now, just so that we can kind of play around with the animation. Because what we want to do is basically, we want this to be a square. So this could be a full square, or this could just be the border outline. So in our example, it is the border outline. So, but I'll do that in a minute. Tell you what, we'll do a border solid 3 pixels, and we'll do it green for now, just so you can kind of, oh, that's absolutely gross colouring, Louise, but that's fine. You know what, let's do black. I really can't stand that. But this is just going to help you kind of see where it is and the positioning of it as well. Okay, so what we want to do is we want to, when we hover over the element, we want this to move. So you can select both. So you can say, when this element is hovered over, the after should do something. And what we're going to do is we're going to use something called a transform. See, because we have got the top and the left, we could move it with, we could say, if I just show you first, we could say top 2%. Tell you what, let's just do it 20 so you can kind of see it a bit better. And you can see, I know obviously we need to add an animation so that it kind of like, or a transition, that's what they call it, so it goes a bit smoother. So you can do top or left or height or width, all of these things can be editable. However, for performance reasons, they do recommend that you do a transform because it is just better in the logic of it. So, and I find it a bit easier to kind of understand it. So what we're actually going to do is we're going to say transform, and in that transform, we want it to translate by minus, let's say 8 pixels and minus 8 pixels. So here you can see it kind of jumps up. For this one, I think I'm actually going to do 12. Let's make it a bit bigger. Again, you can play around with these numbers, kind of what suits your design. So yeah, as you can see, it's obviously quite jumpy. So we're going to say transition. And as good practice, you don't need to put this, but you're going to say what you want to transition, transform, and then let's do 0.45 seconds. That's a general kind of a good one that I find. And there you go. You can see that we've got a nice kind of smooth effect, which looks great. You can play around with easing and things like that. So if you just kind of Google CSS easing, there's lots of different kind of ways that you can play around with it. But to be honest, for something as small as this, I would just say the standard one is generally best. Yeah, so that kind of has set us up nicely. Perfect. So now what we need to do is we actually just need to get this behind it. So we can say Z index -1. And that means it goes behind it. Yes. Oh, and the only other thing as well is box sizing, because as you can see, it's slightly coming out of there because of the box shadow. But you can sort this out by going box sizing, and we want border box. So basically, we're telling it to include the border in the kind of elements position relative. So now we've got this lovely little kind of slide out. So again, you don't need to have the background. So if we take that out, we'll actually have a far better kind of looking like our border, and you can again change this color to anyone that you're wanting. It really is as simple as that. We can play around with like a few other parts, like a nice, if I just save this one for a second, a nice option that's quite modern is if we go to, let's click this. Oh, hold on. I've accidentally clicked that button. If we go to, so colors, and we want darkest, and then we want to go down to the buttons. So this is the ternary one. So, oh, actually, we want to go to buttons, isn't it? It's under buttons. So we've got shape, and we could say no fill. Oh, I need to do it on my ternary. And so now you can kind of see it has save. Oh, it's because that's got a color on hover. But what we could do, let me just exit here. I could show you how to get rid of that. So I'm guessing, so we want background transparent. Might need to also put an important on it because I'm imagining that it's probably, there we go. So yeah, if you wanted this kind of like to see both squares at the same time, so you didn't have a fill color, that might be quite good. So let me also get this color just so that I think it will look far better if they're the same color. At the moment, obviously, because it's red. Is there a color in here? So yeah, I just sometimes like grab a color picker just so I can get this. Okie doke. And I like it as a hex. Perfect. So rather than this red, let's go for this. So there it kind of, oh, it's a lot lighter. Okay, well, you get a bit more of a picture, and then it kind of will come out like this. And again, we can make sure that the text kind of stays the same color as well. But yeah, I think it's a really nice effect. You can have a few others. You could even say in this one, overflow hidden. That means anything that's outside this container won't be visible. And then you kind of get this weird kind of block squaring. So there's lots of things that you can do with this. Again, I don't quite like that. I quite like it as a kind of seeing it as shapes. It makes it kind of feel a bit 3D. And yeah, you can even add like a box shadow on this. Oh, especially if I could spell correctly. Box shadow. 3 pixels, 2 pixels, black. I don't think you've got much there, have we? Make sure, let's do 12 pixels. 12 pixels. Oh, let's do it fuzzier as well. Fuzzier is not really the correct terminology, but you know what I mean. So more of a box shadow. So you could do it in this kind of way if you're wanting, which kind of gives it quite a cool look. But yeah, I'll leave the code in a blog post because I can't add code into YouTube kind of descriptions. But yeah, if there's more kind of looks and styles that you want me to do, then do let me know. And yeah, I'm just kind of happy playing around with it. Thanks.